Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another YouTube Live. Hope you are doing well. Hope your week is off to a good start. If you have been following my Instagram in the recent days, you will know that I just got back from Bolivia. It was an incredible trip. If you ever consider going to Bolivia, highly, highly, highly recommended. I mostly went there for the purpose, or my main thing that I wanted to see was the Bolivian salt flats, which I saw on the last day, and it was just like absolutely incredible. So some other positive things would have been the hospitality, the food, absolutely delicious. Yeah, I really, really recommend it. But I hope you guys are also well. Hope you have had a good start to this week. Today, we are going to talk about how to organize your life for the holidays. The holidays, the most stressful time of the year for most people, the holidays, the time where they gain more weight than at any other time during the year, usually the holidays where we completely let go of our routines, the holidays, a wonderful time to enjoy with our families and friends. Potentially the holidays where we travel, where we leave our homes, just a lot going on throughout the holidays. Before I fully head into it, I want to also let you know that especially for this purpose, I have created a handbook which I have called the Happy Healthy Holiday Handbook. This is supposed to guide you through the holidays in a way so that you don't yo-yo, so that you don't gain weight, so that you do feel confident in all your decisions, so that you can say afterwards, I have truly made some mindful choices. I enjoyed all my social events from the inside, from the outside. So if you are interested in this Happy Healthy Holiday Handbook, you can either head to our website and check out the freebies section there, or you can simply comment below. You can message me on Instagram or send me an email to let me know that you are interested in this Happy Healthy Holiday Handbook. Now, let's talk about happy, healthy holidays. Well, I mean, why I want to talk about it, I've basically already alluded to. I want to help people avoid the yo-yoing, and more than anything, I don't want people to feel stressed for the next 2 months or so. I am just someone, I love routine. I truly, truly love routine. And I think that people, well, how do I say? I don't want to say I'm annoyed when people constantly say like, oh, I've fallen off the wagon here. I'm just gonna get back into this now. I feel like people waste a lot of time by falling off their routines and then spending all this effort of trying to get back into their routines, because that is the hardest thing, like getting the gear going. When we stop with something completely and then have to start back up, and then we let go of it and then we have to start back up. And so this is how habits are never created, because we don't give it enough time in between. And so here are some awesome strategies, hopefully, for you to avoid making that mistake. Again, we're always super stressed throughout the year, most of us anyway, especially if you have a family and you're working at the same time. I totally get it. I work with so many women, or people in particular that or women in particular that have a career and they still need to manage their house life and everything else and want to take care of themselves too. And you have probably heard you just need to make time for yourself, or just need to make time for your workout or whatever, right? Like, who hasn't heard that before? And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, where? Like, the day only has 24 hours. You're telling me I need to make time for sleep. I need to make time for meal prep. I need to make time for training. I need to make time to meditate. I need to make time for but what about the actual life itself? Like the eating together, the picking up the kids from the school, the going to work, the all of that. And it doesn't help just hearing you can't pour from an empty cup. Or we've probably also heard that airplane analogy that if in case of emergency, there is going to be an oxygen mask coming from the top, and you have to put that on your child first and then yourself. Is that right? No, right. They always say you need to put it on yourself first and then the other person. So How does that translate over to life, though? You can't just take care of yourself and let the kids be and be like, oh, well, you guys go fend for yourself because right now I'm overwhelmed. I need to take care of myself. So very often, for most people, their priorities are kids, then the spouse, then the household, then pets, then food for pets, and then me. Maybe, perhaps. Um, but even if you are the best organizer and the best planner, sometimes you can't fit it all under one roof and you can't make it all work, including the you. So often when we are overwhelmed, what happens? The first thing that we do is we cut ourselves off first, then usually the friends, and then usually family. So like you have probably felt like that before also, when things just get too much, the first things you drop are your self-care things, and then the next thing you drop would be that you're telling your friends, well, no, I'm swamped at the moment, we need to catch up in a month's time or maybe 2 months time. And then after a while it might be like, okay, we're cutting down on family activities or we just stay in or whatever. So that's usually the sequence as it goes. But how do we prevent that from happening so that we don't cut ourselves off first and don't think of it as a hierarchy and more as a holistic thing? And I have a few things to say about that later on when I'm going to talk about like non-negotiables and negotiables, etc., where I have kind of like a 3-tiered system. I guess I'm going to talk about that right now before I get into the actual list about the holidays. So when I think of everything that I want to do, that I do, I think of it in various tiers. I think of it first in my absolute basics that need to get done no matter what. They are my non-negotiables. And this can vary also depending on what stage of life I'm in. This can vary depending on what time of the year it is. It can vary, but it might be something like I am making sure I'm getting in, 2-3 servings of vegetables per day and some protein. I'm making sure I'm moving in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just cleaning the house. I am making sure that I'm getting a little bit of outside and me time, and even if it's just 3 minutes. That could be the absolute basics on top of sleep. I like to add in there as well. Now, everything I do on top of that would be a next level tier. So that would be things like, it's still kind of a non-negotiable most days, but if I would be swamped up to absolutely to the top of my head, then that might be the first thing that I would drop. So that might be things like, or one of the things I would drop might be things like tracking my food. That might be things like getting my strength training in and following a specific program. That might be things like doing my mobility work and so on. And then we have the nice to haves. That might be specifically things like meditation. Yes, ideally that would be a tier lower or maybe even 2. People would argue. But for me, I'm just giving you some examples. That might be things like actually doing meal prep. On the other tiers, we might just be utilizing convenient foods or frozen foods or canned foods or eating out, but in a healthy way. But yeah, so that might be meal prep. That might be all this kind of stuff. And what I have found that with this 3-tiered structure, it can just remove a lot of the guilt, because many people have a habit tracker, or many of my clients, they might say in their weekly check-in, Lisa, this week was absolutely crazy. I didn't do blah, 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 because I haven't had time for that. I feel so guilty, but I'm going to start back up with all my habits come Monday. I'm like, hang on. We don't need to start with all of them. I definitely don't want you to feel guilty. What I want to focus on going forward or in a future stressful time like this would be that you still follow through with the basic things, so that in the end you can say, at least I've tried to prioritize sleep, at least I got a little bit of fresh air in, at least I moved a bit, and at least I focused on the quality of food. That's the basic, right? And everything else is being layered on top of that. So you can create, I urge you or encourage you to create your own hierarchy for yourself for the future. This is not necessarily related to the holiday stuff I'm going to talk about, but just about any kind of stressful period of time. Now let's get into the 7 things that I recommend or I specifically want to talk about when it comes to the holidays. First one would be to plan even earlier and to plan even more than you think you need. you might be a planner like me anyway, but still do it earlier and do even more details than you think you need. Ideally now. Like, I know it's October, but start planning now. Why not? Whenever you have a free time now, do it now. Later on, it's going to get busy, and no better time to think than when you actually have a clear head. With that being said, my recommendation is try to not overload your plate, figuratively and literally, kind of to speak. Overloading your plate in the sense of not too many commitments. So let's say, where are we going for Christmas? Where are we going? Where are we going to have our when and where are we going to have our work Christmas celebration? Are we doing New Year's? Are we going anywhere? Like, what are all the things, and how can we maybe spread them out in a way that it is a lot more not just tolerable or manageable, but also enjoyable. On that note, also think about who you can already ask for help. So, in the sense of, okay, we're hosting Christmas. Can I ask the people that are coming to each bring a plate or two? Can I ask if we might not want to hold it at our home, so that I don't have to do all the cleaning up, and maybe we're gonna go and rent a wonderful room or so, like one of those halls that you can rent and just do it there and pay for some cleaning, and everybody can chip in. Ask for help in the sense of decorations, in the sense of literally everything. Ask for help. People are keen to help. People are willing to be involved, especially kids, especially your partner. Do it as a team. And do remember or think that things are always going to take longer than you anticipate, even when you know this piece of advice. This is what the research shows. Like, seriously, we always need longer than we think we need, even if we know this piece of information. So if you think, I'm going to be able to bake a cake, baste the turkey, put together the casserole, and blah 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 in 3 hours, maybe calculate for 6. So always anticipate things to take longer than you think. My second point would be in regards to the present. I'm someone, I don't really like material presents that much anyway. I much prefer experiences. I much prefer being even just gifted like an online voucher so I can buy whatever I want, even supplements or like literally anything like that, or a gift voucher to a restaurant. But anyway, this is not about me. Yeah, I do think that presents should be individualized. And I realize that especially kids, they do like material presents. But nonetheless, for most people, I do think online presents, most people would be happy about, like an Audible gift voucher, or to a spa, or even just like sending someone a flower subscription so that they receive lovely flowers once a month and think of you once a month. Anything like that, I'm fairly certain that for most people that is fine. And that means you don't need to run around. That means you don't need to drive somewhere and pick them up and blah, 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 blah. Like, save your time and save your nerves. Christmas shopping, holiday shopping in general, amongst a ton of people, is even more draining than if you do it online. And if you do it online, I highly recommend picking a time where you're fresh in your mind, where you're not already super exhausted, laying on the couch at 9:30 when you've just put the kids on bed, and then doing the online shopping. Not the greatest time. Try to have fun with it as well. Try to make it a little bit enjoyable. Browse around, maybe utilize something like Black Friday for getting some good deals for Christmas or anything like that. But yeah, individualize, but also make it something where you're like, this is promoting a healthy lifestyle for that specific person, or it's just something enjoyable that doesn't go to waste or doesn't just sit in the corner after 5 minutes. The third one is in regards to the food. And several of them are going to be in regards to the food. But this one is, I want to encourage you not to be shy to use meal prep services. There are some amazing places where you can order your turkey from, where you can order even ahead of time, like frozen sweet potato casseroles or cakes or whatever, so that you can truly use this time, especially if you're not a baker. Of course, if you're getting a ton of joy out of baking or cooking, please go ahead and do that. But if it's kind of like, ugh, I have to do this and that, to do something instead that you're good at. Maybe you're really good at decorating. Maybe you're like, well, I'm much better at organizing an activity for us that day, and we're just going to use a meal prep service to to have some food to take with us. And of course, you don't need to tell everybody that you didn't make that casserole from scratch. But even if you do, like, what's the harm? Most people would probably understand these days. Maybe not your grandma. My grandma probably wouldn't understand, but that's okay. It's a different generation. And if you're not using it for the specific holidays, you could also say, right, I'm focusing, or I like cooking for the holidays. So let me make sure, though, that I'm prepared for the days before, the days after, once we run out of all the leftovers, so that we have some food in the freezer, so that we can possibly purchase some meal prepped meals and just store them in the freezer in case we need them, or having frozen vegetables, having canned vegetables, or stuff like that that you can always resort to, instead of making some elaborate meals during a time that's already super, super busy. On that note, also, I am a big fan of online grocery shopping. So I kind of combining point 2 and point 3, where I said, hey, just buy your gifts online, or buy your gift vouchers online. I also think online grocery shopping. I don't know if you guys have done that before or not, but like that curbside pickup, or even having it delivered, particularly if you have a family. I do not, but if you have a family, putting everybody in the car, and then they're going to want the sweet, and then this is going to take longer. Just buy it online. And if you have pre-created, like if you do it regularly, you can usually save your shopping cart and just use the exact replicate the next time, so that you don't even need to select the things once again, or search for them once again. Of course, this is only in regards to the regular foods that you order anyway. It doesn't really apply to Christmassy stuff or holiday food, because you're not going to buy that on a regular basis. Now, more specifically, in order to avoid the yo-yoing, so like, how is all this helping with the yo-yoing? Well, it's going to help you that throughout this time, you still can make time to work out, to get out and go for your walk, to maybe plan your foods ahead, to have enough time for sleeping instead of online grocery shopping in the middle of the night, right? Or going grocery shopping, not grocery, present shopping the next day, so stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, more specifically, though, into the prevention of the yo-yoing, set an alcohol and a plate maximum if you are going to a buffet, or if it's like, well, not necessarily a buffet. Most shared meals are going to be in the sort of a buffet type manner. So I would always recommend, before the event, already think about, am I going to drink 2 drinks, no drinks? Am I going to have dessert? Be realistic about it. Most social events around the holidays are going to include at least the option of all of that. I usually recommend either getting alcohol or dessert, or maybe having 1 drink and sharing a dessert, just to kind of keep it a little bit in check. And the plate maximum is sort of a thing where you're like, right, the first plate I'm going to use to have at least half the plate of some vegetables, or something like that, quarter of a plate of some protein, and then the last quarter of the plate, where I just have a little bit of the things that I want to try, like the one of the funniest things is I have spent a year in Nebraska in 2006, so a really long time ago. And with that, of course, some Thanksgiving as well. And last year I had the pleasure of going back as well. And in the Midwest, I mean, they do a ton of salads. You guys probably know that better than I do, because most viewers here are more from the US. But anyway, they do a ton of salads that don't include a single vegetable, maybe sometimes not even fruit. So there, for instance, there is a marshmallow salad, if I'm not mistaken, and that it does, I think, contain mandarins, but like canned mandarins with, of course, sugar on them. But aside from that, it's marshmallows. It's like some Cool Whip or so. So yeah, anyway. So if you just want to try like a little bit of certain things where you're like, oh, I don't get that too often, I would say that is what the last quarter of the plate can be for. I also always recommend skipping things that you can have year round. Like, if excuse me, if there's a bread roll and you're like, this is really not a special bread roll, I can have a bread roll basically any day, then don't waste your calories on that bread roll. That would be my recommendation. Of course, if you're like, whoa, this is a Grandma Mary's bread roll, I only get that once a year, please go ahead, build that into your meal. But apart from that, I would just say, like, set yourself a plate maximum where you say, I'm going to have one or two, one main plate, and I might go back for half of a second plate, or I'm going to have one main plate and I'm going to share dessert, and I'm going to have 2 drinks of alcohol. Like, totally up to you, but think about it beforehand so that you can kind of ration instead of going all out in that first plate or in that a starter, and then you're like, oh wow, I didn't know we were gonna have dessert, I'm so full already, but okay, right, I'm gonna have another piece. Yeah. And with that too, so we've had a plate and an alcohol maximum, but with that I would also recommend having an activity and sleep minimum, non-negotiable, for the next 2 months. So if you're like, okay, I need to be in bed 10 or 11 o'clock every single day, that is my minimum, or I need to give myself at least 7 hours of sleep opportunity, which is already not quite enough, but that would be like, is that a realistic minimum? And what does that mean in terms of how early I need to go to bed each day? And with the activity, okay, I'm going to set myself as a minimum at least 6,000 steps or 20 minutes of just walking outside. Have those non-negotiables, the bottom tier things that I spoke about earlier. And with that, I would recommend something that most people are actually really open to, and that is just making social get-togethers more active. Be the person that says, hey, I'm going to do a morning workout, or I'm going to do a Christmas Eve workout. Who wants to join? Put that on your social media. Maybe people are going to come. Or even if you have your family gatherings and you have just had a wonderful big meal, but everyone's like, oh, in that turkey coma, be the person that says, wow, the sun is coming out. Let's go for an afternoon stroll to the playground, 10 minutes away. Who's in? And at first I might be like, oh no, we want to play Xbox, or we want to watch a movie or so. Say, we can do that afterwards. Let's go for half an hour, some fresh air, some movement. Be that person. And if no one wants to join in, just go on your own for 10 minutes, come back in. What I also find is helpful, like even if you're staying inside, if the weather is horrible, be the person that helps with the cleanup. If it's not your house, be the person that helps with the dishes. It's not just polite, it's not just lovely, it also helps you to be a little bit more engaged and to focus a bit more on the social aspect that we should really be focusing on during that time. I think in general, we think of food too much when it comes to all these get-togethers, and we don't focus enough on the social aspect, on what great conversations do I want to have, how can I be more entertaining. I have shared before, I think that I have been doing a storytelling course over the last few months, mostly for the purpose of improving my podcasting skills, but also because I just think it's a wonderful, wonderful skill. I have always admired people that are able to tell an engaging story where you're like, tell me more about this. Or Uncle Joe, I know about his time during the blah, 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 blah. My parents have never sort of passed that on to me. They're always more reserved. They always find more like nobody's going to be interested in that. So it's always been more like about the weather and maybe some very light politics or so, but nothing really deep. And I think, and it doesn't have to be like a really profound story or conversation, but I just find that social get-togethers get so much better if you actually learn something new about a person, if you actually tell them something exciting that you've been up to, and then maybe they share something too, because it is this reciprocal, I don't know what that word is, process where, it's just lovely if we get to know each other better that way. So focus more on the social aspect. It's going to also help you limit your calories. It's going to make the whole thing a lot more enjoyable, so that you feel like you're getting through the holidays in a way that benefits you too. And the last point that I have for you is get thinking of your New Year's goals now. I know it's like just the middle of October and you're like, Lisa, this is ridiculous. We've only just entered the last quarter of this year. But it will help you to stay more on track over the holidays, because you don't have to think about the 15 pounds that you need to get off. Instead of, you can just think, okay, I'm planning to maintain my body as best as possible over the holidays. So what from there do I want to work on in 2025? what is realistic? It can also be, what travel goals do I have? What do I want to learn for me personally or for my work? What kind of ambitions do I have for my job? I think we often leave it until like the 27th of December to think about our New Year's goals, if we even have any. And then you don't have to. You can use any day to as a bit of a reset. But I feel like having some specific goals for the New Year's is often like extra motivation, because everyone else or most people around us are going to be setting some goals and are going to try to be back on track. So yeah, why not think about them now? That gives you a lot more time and more of a chance to plan for them with a clear mind of like, what's realistic, what do I really want, going into details of how to break that down, which in the end is what we want to do. We want to reverse engineer that. So if you think, I want to run a marathon in October 2025, what do I need to do for that? Don't wait with it until July before you start with your training, but maybe think, okay, maybe that means it would also already be a good idea to go running twice a week right now, even if it's just short. Or I would love to finish my blah 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 degree in 2 years time. Where do I need to apply? Maybe I can already look so that in the new year I'm already prepared, and so on. So plan for your New Year's goals now. That's going to help you stay more organized over the time of the holidays also. So I'm going to do a little bit of a recap. Independent of what I said in the end here, I suggested that you just generally think of all your habits, all the things that you want to do in your normal day-to-day life outside of the holidays, as in several tiers: the absolute non-negotiables, the kind of intermediate, and then the nice to haves that don't feel bad if you don't have tier 2 or tier 1 when life is really busy. Of course, don't use that as an excuse not to pursue them, but still. That has really helped me and is helping a lot of our clients also. But apart from that, in order to avoid putting yourself last, in order to avoid that you think of kids, spouse, household, pets, food for pets, and so on first before you think of yourself, start planning even earlier and plan even more than you think, especially plan for more time so that you don't overload your plate literally and figuratively. Ask for more help, and just in general anticipate that things are going to take more time. Maybe set something like a two per week limit when it comes to your social engagements throughout December or something of the like. Number two, think wisely about how and where and what you buy people for a present. Make it something useful. Ideally, don't even drive there. Make it still something personal, but in my opinion, also something like flowers or like an audiobook subscription or so is absolutely fine. Of course, only if that person likes audiobooks. Point number three, don't be shy to use meal prep services, whether it is for the actual holiday or whether it is for the days around the holiday, so that you have food at home. Do online grocery shopping. And then for the particular holidays, set an alcohol and a plate maximum and an activity and a sleep minimum. Make your social get-togethers active. Be the person that motivates people to go out, and then get thinking of your New Year's goals right now. Keep them somewhere visual. Tell them to people so that that is already a form of accountability. I know that there's a bit of conflicting research, as in like, should we tell people about our goals or not? I think it has kind of been indicated that as long as it doesn't make us feel like we've already taken action towards that, or prevent us from taking action on that, it is absolutely a great form, or can absolutely be a great form of accountability to already plan for that. So last reminder, if you are interested in our Happy Healthy Holiday Handbook, I would absolutely love to share it with you. Send me a message, comment below. And hopefully that will be an additional help throughout the holidays on top of these 7 things that I have just shared with you. I want to thank you for listening, for your time here. And if you have any questions, as always, just drop them in the comments or reach out in any kind of other way. Have a wonderful rest of your day.